Hello, everyone. Dr. Greg here. Great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me for another session. Really excited to chat with you today. As always, as we walk through this information, feel free to use the Q&A in the chat so that way we can make sure that we're addressing all of your issues and making this more of than just a Greg presentation, of course. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about eating smarter, and I don't mean this to be like, a nagging type of thing. It's more just like, let's think about the effect of food on our brain. And I'll start with just a little story for you. Right at the beginning of my career, I was doing some consulting work. I was an athlete and had taken a kinesiology degree. And so I was out doing some work on healthy high performance in a finance group. And they were about to go into a very difficult negotiations with a client. And so I decided to help them try to perform better. So I asked them, what's the worst time of day for you? And they all said, well, in the afternoon, because we have the afternoon crash. It's like, great, book the meeting in the afternoon. And they were like, what? I was like, trust me, but I want you here at lunch. So I fed them chicken, avocado, steamed spinach, green tea, and water. So basically chicken for lots of protein to give their brain the neurotransmitters that it needs in order to be able to concentrate and focus. I'll talk about that in a moment. Avocado, a healthy fat, high in fiber, very slow digesting for consistent energy over a long period of time. Greens, just to make them think it was healthy, placebo effect, although recent research backs that up. Green tea, because it's a little bit of caffeine that you can sip for a long period of time. Again, consistent performance, no spike and crash. And of course, water, because when you're hydrated, your brain just simply works better. I also gave lunch to the other group when they arrived, but I gave them lunch in a different room. And I fully recognize that in hindsight, 25 years ago, this may not have been the most ethical thing in the world, but I gave them scones, muffins, bagels, croissants, coffee, Coke, and basically flooded their bodies with a lot of very simple sugars. And to watch the groups over the next 4 hours in the negotiations while I was facilitating was extraordinary for me, because I watched my group perform very consistently, stable, and the other group spike and absolutely crash. So I learned very early on that nutrition is all about human performance and health, obviously, but I was amazed at just how much of an impact it actually had on their ability to function. And so what I want to do today is to show you just some basic, simple principles on how we can eat smarter so that we can function at our absolute best and get healthy at the same time. Now, it is not easy to do this. If we think about how difficult it is to get great, healthy food for us in the world right now, it's not the easiest thing to do. So this is an image that I took on an expedition that I did to India a few years ago. And I took a group of youth ambassadors there with Raise Ahab and a group called Impossible to Possible. And we ran 5 marathons in 5 consecutive days, northwest corner of India, right near the Pakistan border, exploring issues related to world health. Kids came to our campsite every night. It was amazing. It was just awesome to interact with the locals. It was fantastic. I was there gathering data for the World Health Organization. So I also went into some of the villages looking at what the locals were eating. And I found this gentleman selling all of the traditional Indian foods. Amazing. Anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, anti-type 2 diabetes, anti-metabolic syndrome, anti-depression. And that's actually a really cool thing now because we're learning so much about the effect of food on the brain. There's an entirely new field of nutritional psychiatry, which is emerging, where we're learning about the effect of food on our mental health. Now, I took this photo, awesome, turned my body 90 degrees, and I took this photo. And as these foods are getting into India, Brazil, Malaysia, China, Kenya, our schools, our businesses, our homes, the diseases of the West are following: cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, depression, neurodegenerative diseases. So I'm really encouraging all of us to think as much as we possibly can about nutrition, not just for your body, or we should be eating veggies like that, although you should. I really want you to be thinking about the effect of food on your brain and how it makes you feel. This is an MRI scan of the brain. I do a lot of MRI research, so I'm always fascinated by looking inside the human body. Just really cool that we can see that. Now imagine taking a camera and zooming into the tissues up top. We have 100 billion neurons. These are the cells that create thinking, problem solving, concentration, focus, alertness. All of that stuff happens right at the junctions between those cells inside your brain called neurons. They're called synapses. And what happens in the synapse is that neurotransmitters, little chemicals, move back and forth between those synapses, between those neurons, and that's what creates thinking, problem solving, concentration, focus. And what we have learned is that the foods that we eat during the course of the day influence how the brain works and what neurotransmitters get created. And when we have foods that are higher in protein than carbohydrates, we create neurotransmitters that help us to concentrate and to focus. So my first major recommendation for you today is to think about ensuring that you have a little bit of protein at breakfast and at lunch during your workday. Now, if you're on shift or you're in early or you're in later, then it's the beginning of your shift, the middle of your shift, depending on what your work hours are. And what does that look like? It basically looks like the palm of your hand. So if you have about this much protein at breakfast, about that much at lunch, you're putting yourself in a position to have the best possible brain function during the course of the day. Protein is also very satiating, helps to feel full, keeps you from having spikes and crashes in your blood sugar, and it's super helpful for basically setting you up to be able to perform cognitively throughout the course of the day. So that's my first tactic for you. Now, I'm not anti-carbohydrate by any stretch of the imagination. There's loads of healthy carbs here that are amazing for us. But what you'll notice when you see quinoa, lentils, legumes, rice that's long weight grain wild rice, oatmeal that takes longer than 3 minutes to cook, whole grain bread, real veggies, what you'll notice here is that all of the foods are high in fiber. That is critical because that keeps carbohydrates from being digested quickly. As a result, the carbohydrates enter your bloodstream slowly. Then that is what prevents the insulin spike and crash, where you feel lots of energy and then you're completely depleted thereafter. So when we are thinking about healthy carbs, basically that means foods that are high in fiber, which generally means traditional foods, nothing processed, nothing that comes out of a box. The other benefit of high fiber foods is that they're fantastic for our gut. I'm sure many of you have heard about the microbiome recently. When we have foods that are high in fiber, that helps the good microbiome in your stomach to create the neurotransmitters that function in your brain. There's a gut-brain connection there, and healthy fiber foods that are high in healthy fibers are great for our gut, and then also by extension, great for the brain. If we're thinking about how we make the brain better, what we need to consider is decreasing the amount of sugar in our diet. And I don't mean eliminate it. I go for ice cream every once in a while. It's no big deal. We're just trying to nudge processed foods down, nudge high sugar foods down, decreasing the amount of fast food that we have, because high sugar diets, high processed food diet influence and damage the region of the brain I've circled here in red called the hippocampus. Now, the hippocampus is responsible for learning and the creation of memories. We all have to be lifelong learners these days. Therefore, protecting our hippocampus is of utmost importance. And the way to do that, minimize the sugar in your diet, minimize the processed food in your diet. So far we have healthy proteins for your brain. We've got healthy carbohydrates for fuel. We've got high fiber for your microbiome and low sugar, low processed food. This is not rocket science, super straightforward. One area that I believe in very strongly that might be considered a little bit controversial is I actually believe in healthy fats as well. Cold water fatty fish, nut butter, avocado, coconut, olive oil are all amazing options, because if you think about the brain and you look at the brain, in between all those blood vessels, it's white. And the reason why it's white is because your brain is made up of fats, specifically omega-3 fatty acids, which are used to create something called myelin. And myelin wraps around the branches of your neurons just like bark on the branches of a tree and protects them from damage. So healthy fats, critical for the brain and the spinal cord and all of your neurons, and protecting them from damage and keeping them functioning at the highest possible level. So ultimately what we have there is super straightforward. We've got our healthy proteins, healthy carbs, healthy fats, proteins, especially at the beginning of the day, healthy carbohydrates, keep the fiber up, healthy fats all the time, minimize sugars, minimize processed food, minimize fast food as well. Really straightforward, really basic. That wins 99% of the battles. Now, a question just came in, which is super amazing. What are my thoughts on meal replacement shakes? In general, broadly speaking, I believe, let's just extend this to supplements as well, so all those sorts of things, that if you take a supplement against the backdrop of a not an awesome diet, you will have expensive urine. So if you're having lots of junk food, lots of processed foods, and you take a multivitamin, it's really not going to help you. However, if you've got a really good backdrop, if you're eating your healthy proteins, healthy carbs, healthy fats, you're eating a lot of veggies, and then you want to sneak in some supplements, some multivitamin, that will probably fill in the gaps and really, really help you. Protein shakes are a possibility for getting a meal during the course of the day in the middle of our busy lives that's packed full of a lot of nutrients. So we use them in my family, absolutely, especially if we're going to and from sports or it's a late start and we're zipping out the door. We'll make a smoothie and everyone has it in the car on the way to school and work. There is a guide to making great smoothies by my friend Dr. John Berardi from Precision Nutrition. So if you search Precision Nutrition Super Shake Guide, you will find that, and it's fantastic for showing you how to build a smoothie that's actually really good for you. If you do use a protein powder, which we do in my family, I recommend not using one that's high in whey protein because that spikes and crashes your insulin. I prefer plant-based protein powders. I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian. I just think that the plant-based ones tend to be a little bit better for us overall. So I use Vega Sport Protein with the kids and Living Fuel Living Protein for Judith and I, because it's a little bit better, but it doesn't taste quite as good. So those are your two options there. And so check out the Precision Nutrition Super Shake Guide. If you just need a protein smoothie that tastes good, Vega Sport Protein is a good option for you. If you need one that is really exceptional for you with everything but probiotics, all that stuff, then Living Fuel Living Protein is your best option. And yes, they are technically processed foods, but it's sort of like in the backdrop of a busy life, and we're just trying to do the best we possibly can. That's what we're looking for. Someone else mentions, my issue is coming up with sensible, fast recipes that contain the foods that you mentioned. Where can we find those recipes? So in today's session, I have a workbook for you. It will be attached when I send out the summary. It's also in the web page we have that summarizes today's session. That is a lot of little recipes for you. Also, I have two cookbooks that I really like. The first one is called The Plant Power Way by Rich Roll. I think that's really good, especially if you're into sports. And the other one is Oh, She Glows by Angela Liddon. So I will make sure that those links are also in the summary email from today and also in the webpage so that you can access those as well. And that's where we build a lot of our recipes as well. So I really appreciate those questions. That's awesome. You guys are amazing. Keep them coming. All right, let's keep going. One of the key things and one of the main reasons why I am a big advocate for taking the time to eat as healthy as you possibly can, especially in a world right now that is full of anxiety, fear, stress, tension, and burnout, is that if we consider what stress does to us, whether it's cognitive or it's physical, you see something, you hear something, you find that to be stressful for you, that actually has an impact on your cells. Specifically, stress, whether it's mental or physical, increases oxidation and inflammation. So my core recommendation for you as a philosophy for how we want to be eating looks like this. I want you to think about eating to heal. Simply put, we're considering food as a way for your body and your brain to heal, repair, recover, and to regenerate. So what does that look like? Let's walk through the day. Broadly speaking, the number one tactic that I have for you on this one is very simply eat the rainbow. The more vitamins and minerals and polyphenols and flavonoids that you can get into your system from fruits and veggies and a few other compounds and foods I'll show you in a second, the better. Because every single different color has a different polyphenol and flavonoid profile that helps to prevent chronic disease and heal, repair, recover, and regenerate your body and give you more mental and physical energy. So what does that look like? In the morning, quite often, my family will do these Power Greens. This is an example of a smoothie that we would make that's packed full of nutrients. Yes, it's a little bit processed, but this is a quick way to get all of us what we need during the course of the morning and loading a whole bunch of nutrients, especially greens, because there's a lot of cancer in my family and greens seem to be anti-cancer in nature. So number one philosophy, eat the rainbow, as many plants as you can. I'm not vegan, not vegetarian, but all of the research shows that the more plants that you have in your diet, the more likely it is that you're going to have a low risk for all-cause mortality and the longest possible lifespan. Then in the morning, you're going to have your tea or your coffee. Maybe most people do. And actually, the tea and coffee. I'm sorry, I'm going to get out of this now and just make sure that that's coming across okay. If we are going to be having some tea in your coffee, let's see if we can get over there. There we go. My coffee image are actually full of polyphenols and flavonoids. Really fantastic for us. So we just want to minimize the amount of caffeine. The coffee itself is actually quite good. So front load this into your day. Have a really good coffee from time to time, just not too much because caffeine can be problematic. Later in the day, you might want to consider something like green tea because it's much lower in caffeine and packed full of polyphenols and flavonoids, specifically green tea catechins, which have an antidepressive effect. Even later in the day, we move into something like herbal tea, packed full of polyphenols and flavonoids and no caffeine whatsoever. So ultimately what we're doing is having a little bit of caffeine in the morning. Caffeine decreases throughout the course of the day, and we're leveraging coffee beans and tea leaves because they're full of polyphenols and flavonoids that are amazing for us. Now you'll notice here, obviously, this is herbal tea. You may not want herbal tea, you might not like it. That's totally fine. We can hydrate in other ways. Water is phenomenal for us. I put a little bit of citrus in mine, and the powerful thing about water is, believe it or not, water is the fundamental part of the energy pathway that exists inside the body. It's called the Krebs cycle. You remember it from grade 10 bio. But basically, this is the system inside of our body and our brain that breaks down the foods that we eat in order to create energy. So here we have 4 inputs into the Krebs cycle. You'll notice that it is water. Without water, you cannot create energy. So the more water that you have during the course day, the better your energy levels are. And if you are feeling depleted, tired, brain fog, afternoon crash, the first thing I strongly recommend for you, get on drinking a little bit of water. If it doesn't taste very good, squeeze some citrus fruit into it. Makes it so much better. One of the ways in which I do this in the morning is something called what looks like here. It's just lemon, ginger, zinger, a little bit of water, a little bit of fresh peeled ginger, a little bit of lemon, and that is just a spectacular way for me to get going. Walking through the food part of the day, breakfast just simply looks like balance with a lot of protein, as we previously discussed. We also use overnight oats a fair bit. This is something that you can make in advance. You'll notice that there's protein, a little bit of fat, a little bit of healthy cinnamon, anti-inflammatory compounds. These are all really good options for you. Mid-morning, I strongly recommend something high in fiber because, again, that will give you energy, control the microbiome, create nutrients that are good for your brain. Lunch is back to something that is balanced in nature. You'll notice protein, veggies, healthy fats, something like a Cobb salad. By the way, I'll make all of these slides available to everyone. Something like a Cobb salad where you've got some protein, some veggies, some healthy fats. This is a consistent pattern that you're going to start seeing now. And then just to win you all back over, another thing that I like at the end of lunch is dark chocolate. The reason why is because dark chocolate has all sorts of flavonoids which increase brain blood flow. It's called vascular reactivity. So 70% cocoa and above, and you're all good. A little bit, not a brick, ladies and gentlemen. And this might also look something like a hot cocoa. We do this in the evenings, especially after sporting events. Your afternoon snack looks a little bit more like berries because they are packed full of antioxidants which help your brain. So the afternoon snack is higher in sugar, and fruit is the best thing that I recommend for the afternoon. Dinner, we're back to something that is extremely balanced with a higher level of carbohydrate because carbohydrates can help you to relax, and a heavy emphasis on spices. And the reason why is because spices are powerful antioxidants and anti-inflammatories which help us to combat the effects of stress. So that's the overall general philosophy. That's a lot there. It's quite a bit to share with you all at once. But remember, this is all about the basics. Humans are the only species on planet Earth that require a food guide to know what to eat. Like, we know what's good for us. So take the time, eat real food that you recognize as food, make it yourself, eat it with family and friends. When we invest the time to do that, I know that we're all busy, but when we invest the time to eat smarter, your health will improve, your performance will improve, your relationships will improve, your level of sustainable excellence will increase. We cannot perform world-class levels at what we care about the most if we are not fueling our bodies and eating in order to heal. So keep the questions coming. Don't be afraid to fire back questions to me. Ask them through my website, www.drgregwells.com. Obviously, I'm going to send you an email with the video link for today. Share this. I will also create the links for those resources that I mentioned during today's talk. And I'm here for you. Just want to help out. Just want to make you feel better. Share a few reminders and ideas for you that will make a huge difference. So keep the questions coming. You are all absolutely fantastic. I know that things are a little bit challenging in the world right now. So we're just doing what we can to elevate ourselves so we can take care of others and make the world a better place. All right. That's it for this session. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate you being here. All right, so remember, last little thing here, Eat to Heal. If you would like a resource that will help you track what you're doing, don't be afraid to download and use the Vivio app. In the Eat Smarter section of that app, it enables you to track your nutrition so that you can see how well you're doing and what might be better. And remember this, the doctor of the future will not treat people with drugs, but will cure and prevent disease with nutrition. That, of course, from Thomas Edison. If you want to read more, The Ripple Effect is your best resource. That's the book that I wrote. You'll notice that there's an Eat Better section, an entire chapter devoted to healthy nutrition. And all of the resources that I was speaking about today are available here at drgregwells.com/performance. So that's it, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next session.